Fantastic. And thank you so much to Mr. Vella. And also, of course, what a fabulous initiative with the trees. I wholeheartedly approve. So it's time to get things underway and I welcome Dr. Jonathan Spiteri, a member of the Malta Vision 2050 team, to come to the stage and share with us his insights for Envision 2050. Quality as the pillar of Malta's financial future. Please put your hands together to welcome Dr. Spiteri with me.
Good afternoon, everyone, colleagues, friends. First of all, I would like to really thank FinanceMalta for inviting me to speak today. I'm going to briefly talk about the vision. It's a really long document, so I have only 15 minutes, so there'll be a short snapshot, and also how the financial services industry plugs into this vision. And I think the starting point has to be, why do we need a vision? Because when I was asked to join the team a few months ago, I was very skeptical. That was my whole thing. I was extremely skeptical because we have so many visions in Malta, we have so many action plans, we have so many strategies, a lot of different departments and ministries have their own thing. Why do we need another document? Also, the Maltese economy has been doing pretty well over the last few years. Even the financial services industry doing pretty well. So why do we need to do anything? Why not just business as usual and keep doing what we've been doing? Well, the reality is that we are seeing changes, risks and opportunities like never before. So if we're talking about geopolitics, if we're talking about tech, of course, climate change, loads of things are happening like never before, which means that what worked in the past, and I think even George mentioned this, what worked in the past is not a guarantee that it's going to work in the future. We cannot afford to be complacent. There are risks out there, but there are also new opportunities that are arising, and if we are not nimble and if we are not proactive enough, there are other jurisdictions out there that will take advantage. And so Malta Vision is there to help us to take a step back as a country. See, first of all, what we've achieved, where we failed. It's very important also to learn from where we failed and be honest. But then also chart a way forward and say, over the next coming years, where would we like to be? But then more importantly, because it's not a dream, and it's not Malta Dream 2050, we need to actually get there. And so we need to plan and see what resources do we need, what skills do we need, what infrastructure do we need, and see everything in a holistic way. I think one of the big problems that we have in Malta, and not just Malta, I would say probably everywhere in the world, is everyone likes to stay in their lane. Like everyone has their own, I hate using the word silo, but everyone has their own silo, everyone works there, and no one talks to each other. And for example, I think that's one of the great things about what FinanceMalta does. It brings people around the table and talk. And that's part of what we want to do in Malta Vision. We want to bring ministries in different agencies, different departments to speak to each other and coordinate, because that is absolutely vital. And look ahead, see where we want to go. So this has been a few months of consultation, preparation, talking to different people. We've talked to kids, we've talked to teenagers, we've talked to pensioners, all across Malta, and obviously businesses, to get a sense of where does the country want to go. And then obviously the trick is, let's plan. And perhaps when we think of political planning, we often think of election cycles, right? 5-year periods. This is trying to break that. So we're trying to look at it from a longer term perspective, because honestly, a lot of the things that we need to do will have longer term implications. And you might tell me, well, 25 years, so 2050, it's a long time. No one plans for 25 years. Well, firstly, 25 years pass much quicker than you think. Just think back to 25 years ago. Like if I think back 25 years ago, I was worrying about my O-levels, for example. That time really passed quickly. So 25 years pass very, very quickly. But also, don't think of 25 years as being this sort of monolith. In the vision, we've got touch points for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So it's not just 2050. We also have the shorter term, medium term goals that we're going to have to help us see if we are on track. And that's really important. And a really important part of the vision, which really also sold it to me, is that this whole consultation that we've been having over the last few months is going to continue even once the vision is out. Because ultimately, things change. You might need to course correct, you might need to move things around, and we need to have that communication with all stakeholders to be able to do that. So the vision is focusing a lot on quality of life. Let's face it, at this point, quality of life has become potentially a buzzword. Everyone wants a better quality of life. The trick is, how are we going to get there? What does quality of life look like? And so in the final vision document, which will be published next year, so Q1 2026, we have actual metrics for what we mean by quality of life, where we want to go, and obviously then how we're going to get there. And for us, we see the vision of Malta as being across 4 pillars. And don't see them as separate entities. These talk to each other. These are all affected by each other. But we try to keep it as simple as possible. 4 pillars. The first one, sustainable economic growth. Now, I'm an economist by profession, so most of the time when you hear economists talk about growth, it's about record growth or it's about amazing economic growth. No, it has to be sustainable. We are Malta. I really want to focus on, we are not Dubai. We are not any other jurisdiction. We are Malta. We have our own challenges, our own realities, and obviously our own opportunities. So we need to keep that in mind. And in the vision, we have identified a number of sectors and a number of subsectors as well, where we think there is significant potential for growth over the coming years. One of them, shocker, is the financial services sector. The financial service sector has been a bedrock of the Maltese economy for a very long time, but we also think there's big potential for even further growth. And so George already mentioned that there are very ambitious targets, and I cannot give anything away at this point, because I think people out there from the vision team will kill me, but in the beginning of Q1, everything will be there, but they are ambitious. And they are ambitious for a reason, because following our consultation, we think there is very big potential there. And obviously, you know better than me, there are areas in wealth management, for example, family business, all of that, where there's really big potential. Obviously, also a lot of competition. So we're also aware of that. And there are other areas as well, so it's not just financial services. There are just tourism, manufacturing, a lot of other areas where we think there's potential for growth. And each of these will have its own targets as well. But you can't look at it on its own. So it's good that we're targeting growth in financial services. But we come to the next pillar, accessible, citizen-centered services. We need to make Malta a great place to live. It's a foundation. Because otherwise, we're going to lose talent, people will leave the country, or we won't be able to attract talent to Malta. So we need to look at this holistically. That's what the vision is trying to do. So under this pillar, we've got things like, for example, housing. It cannot be the case that people are outpriced from the housing market. We need to make sure that housing is affordable. Healthcare. It's the same thing. We need to have a world-class healthcare system. When COVID hit, the reason why Malta was not hit as hard as other countries was because we had a really good and resilient healthcare system following years of investment. It doesn't mean we just leave it there because it's good. We need to keep on investing in healthcare. Another one, traffic. We cannot have a long-term vision for Malta without talking about traffic. It was a nightmare to come here today. We want to make it easier because it's very, very much part of the quality of life living here in Malta. And so many things fall under citizen-centered services, but it's part of making life better for all of us here. The next one is education, because Again, we need to have the right skills in place. We need to have the people here who can help us move forward in financial services, but also in other sectors. And one of the big problems that we have identified, that is, again, no mystery to anyone, is the fact that our educational system, from the ground up, focuses way too much on delivering content. So you learn things, and perhaps you learn things by heart, and not enough on cultivating skills. Learning things like how to be more creative, how to be more analytical, critical. So these things are extremely important, not just for financial services, but across the board. And it's extremely important because we're now in the world of AI where we don't want to compete with AI. We want to have skills to be able to work with these types of technologies. Smart land and sea use. Obviously, if we have two resources in Malta, apart from our people, it's land and sea. And we need to make sure that we are using our land in the best possible way. And there's going to be big opportunities there even for financing big projects. But, for example, can we use things like land reclamation to relocate manufacturing to other parts of the country so that our towns and our villages and our cities are more livable, have more green spaces? These are the types of things we're talking about. Energy. We all talk about digitalization and all going digital. We need more energy. We need to have the infrastructure in place, not just to be able to cater for our needs in quantity terms, but also a diversified energy system. So renewables, extremely important, so that we're not exposed to oil and price shocks. So it's not just about the environment, it's also a national security issue. So there are a lot of these things, and each and every one of these pillars has its own KPIs, will have its own descriptions. And one of the things that we're really looking at also is what will help us get there. So the first thing is going to be policy and governance. Now, we heard also from George earlier the big initiatives that are happening in order to make, for example, using RegTech, to make things more streamlined. From our side, in terms of the vision, and again, another question I had when I joined the team is this going to be another document where we launch it in January or February, whenever next year? We have a nice launch, a lot of photos and everything. Then we have this big document, and it goes on the shelf and gathers dust, and that's it. No, so we have in place now, putting together an implementation team with a steering committee. Everything is going to be planned. There's going to be consultations that will continue beyond Q1. And once we have the KPIs out, they will be publicly available. So all KPIs will be publicly available and trackable on a website. So people can just access the website, see where we are across each KPI and see where we're doing well and perhaps where we're lagging behind. So that's a way to promote more transparency, because ultimately, this vision is not about a government. It's not a party thing, it's a country thing. 25 years from now, who knows what's going to happen. So it's very important that it's a country, it reflects the ambitions and the plans and everyone's vision for the country rather than a single person. Funding, financing, absolutely vital. And I think there are a lot of opportunities here. We've already seen private-public sector partnerships, even with regards to, for example, with the Malta Development Bank. There are opportunities there as well in certain areas. Perhaps some more risk-sharing mechanisms that can be put in place for things, for example, like affordable housing projects. So we're seeing a lot of there, again, a lot of potential, but there needs to be more discussions. Digital, I do not have to sell you digital. You all know the importance of digital transformation. That's going to be one of the key drivers. But I think what's important for us is that we don't use digital just for the sake of it. It always has to be with a purpose. And the last thing, which I really hate the wording, Malta's brand. It's not really Malta's brand, it's our heritage and our realities. As I said before, we are who we are. We are unique in our own sense. We have our own challenges, we have our own opportunities. Let's make sure we respect those and chart a way forward that is sustainable for all of us. That's all we're trying to do with this vision. So the consultation process, the official consultation process is over. It ended at the end of October, but I don't know if you can see the email address there, or at least the website there. There is still time. Please, if you have submissions regarding the financial services industry or anything, because ultimately you are all citizens and stakeholders in this, please do contribute. We still want to hear from everyone, because that's the only way this vision is going to stay relevant, is if we continue the consultation process, keep listening to people, and make sure that we're coordinating across different stakeholders, across different interests. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
So in April 2025, we decided to set up our office in Malta. So after a successful product launch in the UK, we wanted to expand our product into Europe. So we chose Malta as our hub to do this. Malta stood out for us as a jurisdiction because there was many incentives to move here. One of those incentives was with Malta Enterprise, which was a business development grant that we received. So we were one of many companies that received the grant. We took about 3 months to get the application processed, but effectively we have a €300,000 grant from the government to subsidise wage costs and office space. I would say it was the right decision to move to Malta for sure, for absolute certainty. One of the benefits of being here is that there's an array of multiple different nationalities. We're looking to launch our product globally, so it's very easy to hire people that speak multiple different languages to pitch across the world for our product. I could safely say that it was definitely the right decision to move to Malta, and I would encourage other companies around the globe to set up here.